Back at Union Point, we called that a glory hole.
You called it a glory hole. Nobody else called it a glory hole.
Hey, Mom. I'm just calling because I feel really bad about how mean I was when I was a teenager when we were growing up. And, you know, I know it was hard on you having to raise 3 kids by yourself, but I love you. JP. Your son. Hey gang, I'm JP and welcome back to Talking The Orville on Egotastic FunTime. Today we're gonna have a great time diving deep into the fold, talking about episode 8 of The Orville. Into the Fold takes us on an adventure with Isaac, Claire, and her 2 young boys as they set out on a trip to a play planet for kids. Along the way, their shuttle gets thrown into a spatial fold that catapults them 1,000 light years from their current location. They're forced to crash land on a moon with an Earth-like atmosphere. The shuttle breaks apart before landing, separating Claire from Isaac and her children. Isaac, Ty, and Marcus set out to find Claire while also having to fend off the feral, cannibalistic inhabitants of this world, while Claire is being held against her will by a doomsday prepper. The rest of the team must travel through the same hole in space to find their missing crewmates.
Now entering glory hole.
This episode of the Orville Into the Fold actually marks a milestone for the show, you guys. Every character of the bridge crew has now officially had an episode that revolves around them. It's about time too. I mean, as we all know on this show, the hierarchy of character importantness, a term I just made up, is as follows. Captain Mercer, Telly, Bortus, who am I kidding? Alara goes before Bortus. Alara, Bortus, Alara again, Gordon, Lamar, Chief Newton, Yaphet, Clyden, Alara, Jake, T-Rex, Daryl, Manilow, and the rest. It's really great that we finally know more about Dr. Finn and Isaac, and there's a lot to talk about, so here we go. As you probably guessed, I loved this episode, you guys. I mean, who knew that Claire and Isaac were going to be such badasses? Claire had to go all commando to get back to her children, and Isaac didn't hesitate to whip out that energy pistol and go to town on those jacked up inhabitants Wyatt Earp style. He was also wearing gun holsters, so yeah, badass. Into the Fold was written by Brandon Braga and Andre Bormanis, and I know some people are tired of comparisons between the Orville and Star Trek, but that's not going to change, like, ever. Not as long as the Orville is making better Star Trek episodes than Star Trek, as well as the fact that Brandon Braga is the ambassador of all 90s Trek, while Andre Bormanis has written nearly 20 episodes of Star Trek, as well as has been a science consultant on every Trek show since The Next Generation. And don't tell me that while Isaac was learning about Ty and Marcus in this scene, that you didn't think about Commander Data learning about whatever the hell he was learning about from this little punk. The Orville is being made by the people who made Star Trek. Plus, it's fun to compare to the two. I mean, it just is. It's fun to reminisce. Don't get me wrong, the Orville is not a parody. It's a continuation of Roddenberry's vision. The Orville has its own voice, and it proves that again and again every week as they give us these amazing stories from the 25th century. Many times throughout the first season, the Orville has done an incredible job of holding up a mirror to society, just like Trek used to do, and it's confronted some pretty serious issues that we currently deal with in the 21st century. This episode decides to take a break from all that and instead gives us a very human story about a mother doing everything she can to get back to her children. This episode is basically an homage to the Lifetime Network. Into the Fold not only humanizes Dr. Finn, but it gives Isaac a platform to show us that he's not just the butt of the joke all the time. Now, of course, Isaac is to the Orville what Mr. Data was to the Enterprise D, but with a very different objective. Where Data desperately wanted to understand humanity in an effort to one day become more human, Isaac wants to understand humanity because basically it's his job. The Kaylon sent him as a representative of their humanoid/artificial world to better understand humans to help improve relations between their two worlds. Isaac agreed to escort Claire, Ty, and Marcus simply to study and to learn about familial relationships. When the shuttle crashes and he's now in charge of Dr. Finn's kids, he tries to protect them not because he cares about them or wants to see them reunited with their mother, who he also doesn't care about. He protects them because, again, it's his job. He's programmed to do his job. Besides, Isaac's no-nonsense attitude and general confusion about human behavior led to some pretty awesome comedy in this episode. But the comedy was all very organic just because of the reality of the situation these people found themselves in, which I think was great and very mature of the show. The show really showed restraint with this episode. Instead of writing jokes and injecting them into the scenes, sometimes awkwardly, I'll admit, they let the situation find the humor naturally. But in spite of that, Isaac did have a great boom bitch moment.
The game is never to be spoken of again.
Boom, bitch! Claire had her own troubles to deal with in this episode. After the crash, she woke up, locked in a room, held against her will by some lonely doomsday prepper with a mullet. We never find out this guy's real intentions because, well, Claire killed him to death with his own gun, but it probably wasn't going to be good. Also of note, the character of Drojan was played by Brian Thompson. You might recognize him as the shape-shifting bounty hunter from X-Files, but Mr. Thompson doesn't exactly get cast to play a good guy, like ever. So it's safe to say that he probably got what he ultimately would have deserved. One thing that sets the Orville apart from other current sci-fi shows is that the Union is made up of good people trying to do good things. After Claire, Isaac, and the kids are rescued, Claire develops a cure for the toxin that infected the inhabitants of the moon. Kelly states that she's going to try and get permission to give the cure to the people so they can start rebuilding their society. That's nice. That's what nice people do. Even when their lives were in danger from the oncoming attackers, Claire has Marcus set his gun to stun because she said that they may not value life, but we do. Even though just moments before she totally killed 2 people, but as parents are fond of saying, do as I say, not as I do. Let's talk about some of the things we learned in this episode. We learned that the Orville actually does have families aboard this ship. When we were first introduced to Ty and Marcus, I was like, wait a minute, Claire has kids? What the hell? Then you can tell from the look of their quarters that the kids actually live on the ship with her. So yeah, there's families on the ship. We find out that the crew actually does use universal translators to understand alien languages. Of course, we all assumed this, but it's nice to get the confirmation. Isaac can mimic the voices of others. I wonder when this ability might come in handy throughout the series, possibly while playing another practical joke on Malloy. When describing a handheld energy weapon, they still use the word gun. Lamar hates using maps. The Orville shuttle pods actually have weapons. Isaac won't hesitate to vaporize a kid if you ask him to. That's good to know. In the 25th century, alcoholism still exists. I also have some bad news to share with you guys, I'm afraid. Someone found a production flaw in this week's episode, and I've got the proof right here, and it's pretty damaging, so brace yourselves. Here you can see Claire and the kids loading up in Shuttle Pod 2, but when we see them again making their way to the play planet, they're clearly flying in Shuttle Pod 1. What? Ooh, it makes me so mad. Oh well, I still love the show. And the fact that Dr. Finn totally loses her shiz with the kids made me forget about that little production faux pas.
Oh, Marcus pinched me!
Oh my God, cut the crap! I'm not telling you again!
And the kids stepped up too. Marcus didn't hesitate to protect his family from attackers. Isaac unintentionally has stepped into Ty and Marcus's lives as a male role model. I'm guessing we'll see Isaac having to make some adjustments to his programming with that situation going forward. It was also nice that when Isaac learned that holding Ty's hand made him feel more at ease, that came into play later on when Isaac grabbed Claire's hand to calm her down. At the end of the episode, it would seem that Isaac has learned about familial relationships by becoming part of a family. It also looks like Dr. Finn might be starting to form some feelings for Isaac. I'm interested to see where this leads, but I'd hate to be the one to have to break the news to Yaphet.
Can you believe these characters? Way out of line, way out of line. You know what hurts the most is the lack of respect. You know? That's what hurts the most.
Okay, that's it. That's all I wanted to talk about today, and I talked about it. How about you? What did you think of Into the Fold? Do you want to see Isaac and Dr. Finn get together after their adventure through the glory hole? You can let me know by joining the conversation below. Special thanks to Spencer Radcliffe, who started supporting Talking The Orville with Patreon this week. Spencer, I love you. And a big thanks to Robert Bricardo, who was kind enough to share my episode about him on Twitter yesterday. You're a gentleman and a scholar and a good actor and really handsome, and I don't care what other people might say, I love your singing. Hey, I see some of you guys are buying shirts from the Talking The Orville shop on Amazon. Send me your pics wearing the shirts and I'll throw them up during the show. It's my show, I can do what I want. If you want to become a part of Talking The Orville, I'd love it if you send in your vids saying, hi, my name is...
Your name here.
From...
Your location.
I love the Orville because of...
It is good.
And I hope all your times are egotastic fun times. Love you, bye-bye!
Egotastic fun time, we're gonna have a great time. Egotastic fun time, give me all your money. Give him all your money. You will find it funny. Just give me money. I love money. Give me all your 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 money.